usually a pastor's preparing his message. Well, he walked up to me and he was like, "Hey man, I need to get you a shirt." And I was like, "Okay." And he went out of his way. He went found a shirt for me and came and gave it to me. And that's whenever I was like, "Okay, yes, this is my shirt."
So we all go through something in life. We all go through hardships. We all go through some sort of pain. And when we go through this pain, we always think we're alone. But that's what I want to talk about in these episodes when I do these interviews is I want you to know that although you may feel like you're alone in this, in what you're going through, you are not alone. You are never alone. So today I have a friend that I literally grew up with. We met in middle school, sometime in middle school. Um, his name is Casey Chesson. I call him Whiteberry. We can get to that when we start the interview, but I'm going to introduce you to him right now. So his story is unique because, well, I'm going to let him tell you his story. But so, Whiteberry, I'm going to keep calling you
Yeah.
that. I know it has Casey Chesson on there, but I am going to call you Whiteberry just because that's what it
Yeah.
is. That's what I've called you since we had to start wearing
Yeah. That's high
uniforms.
school. Yeah.
And if you've never had to wear uniforms in high school or middle school or anything, you just count your blessings,
Yeah.
okay? Just count your
Yeah.
blessings.
Right.
so so the story behind Whiteberry though is he always wore a blue shirt. Always wore. Am I wrong? You always wore a blue shirt.
Oh, always, always.
And so everyone started calling him Blueberry. Well, I'm like, I don't want to call you Blueberry. I want to call you something unique. So
Right.
he is very man, today's day and age, you don't really want to say what I'm about to say, but he's very white. Okay. Not trying to be racist. He is very white. And so I just started calling him Whiteberry, and the name just stuck. Has just
Yeah.
stuck, really. So um so Whiteberry, like I said, I'm not calling you that through this whole interview. Um I'm gonna start off every interview with this question. What is your favorite verse or your favorite verses?
All right. All right. Yeah. My favorite verse ever since I was a little kid was Psalm 23:4. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff they comfort me. Um, James 5:16 is another one. Therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other, so that you may be healed. My last one is Matthew 5:23-24. It's gotten me ever since I really came to Christ. It has shown up in my life tremendously. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there you remember that your brother or your sister has something against you, leave your leave it in front of the altar first. Go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift.
So basically,
Yeah,
go fix what's going on, and then
right,
come offer yourself as a sacrifice.
right,
All these have a kind of common theme to them. Like they revolve around hardships, really.
correct. Yeah,
Did you do that on
yeah.
purpose? Did you do that on
Uh,
purpose, or it
Not
just what?
really.
I mean, it's the first one is you walk through the valley of the shadow of death. You know,
Yeah,
I fear no evil, for the Lord my God is with me.
yeah.
And the
And I
second
mean,
one,
it's just the promises of God and all of Psalm 23. It
oh
really
yeah,
shows the true nature of God that He's with
yeah,
you.
yeah. Psalm 23 is it's a short but powerful
Correct.
verse. So I wanted to get you on here because you kind of have a unique story to you. You grew up Catholic.
Correct.
When I knew you, you grew up Catholic, but you didn't really ever you didn't ever really live the life of a Christian.
Correct.
Will you say that's true?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So what made you what made you not want to follow what you were doing in the church? Did you have something against the Catholics? Did you have something against Christianity? What made you leave the church and want to not follow any sort of Christianity?
I kind of I had lost just kind of lost my way. Um, there was no fulfillment in the church. I didn't really have any motivation to stay Catholic, and it's just I grew up and I let some of the things that aren't good for you really rule my life. Rap music, for instance, that was one of the main ones. And then he eventually led me into drinking, going out to strip clubs, and them type of things. You know.
Oh, so you said rap music, and when I knew you, okay, I still know
Mhm.
you, but back then, rap music really did play a heavy part in your life.
Oh, yeah.
You dude, you decked your truck out just because of the bass that rap music had in it. I remember
Oh,
that.
yeah. Oh, for
Like,
sure.
you would sit in
Yeah.
that truck and you'd be like,
For sure.
seriously. And so,
Yeah.
would you say that you, left the church, left religion, or just stopped believing in God? Or did you ever truly believe in God?
I I I always knew that there was a higher power. I feel more left religion. You know.
Okay.
I I always knew, especially that there was a higher being. And just I didn't know God. You know. That there's a saying that sometimes you know of God, but you don't know God, and that's where I was at. I knew of Him, but I didn't know God.
Right, right. You have what you were taught, and if you don't know what
Right.
Catholic is, and Louisiana, it's a very heavily Catholic state.
Correct.
Um, in CCD, they teach you all out. Did you go to CCD? I
Yeah.
don't okay.
Yeah.
So it's CCD, they teach you all everything about the Catholics and everything. And by the way, none of this is to downplay Catholics. Okay, I just want to
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
clarify this. None of this is saying any of this is to downplay Catholicism or Catholics. My grandpa was a Catholic, and he was a strong believer in Jesus Christ till the day of his death. So I'm not saying that,
Yeah.
but so basically, you taught that you knew there was just a higher being, but
Correct.
you wouldn't ever actually say you believed in God. You wouldn't actually say you devoted your life to Jesus. And like you just
Right.
said, that made you go to places that you knew you shouldn't be going.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and
I didn't have the relationship with God. You
right,
know.
yeah, and
Uh,
so with that relationship, and with or without that relationship, I should say, did you was there always a yearning that something was did you enjoy it? Let me put it that way. Did you enjoy it, or did you enjoy it but have pain after it? Like, say you went, um I remember, I remember going to your house and playing pool
mhm.
with you. Okay.
Right.
And the one rule that I always had when I went to your house, and you respected this rule, which I admire it. You respected this rule, was we will not drink. Period. We will not be
Yeah.
drinking alcohol when I come over.
Right.
Um, and so you respected that rule, but what I guess my question is, when you actually would do that stuff, would there be regret afterwards, or no regret really at all?
Towards the beginning, no. But I do remember towards the end, it was actually for one of my birthdays. I had a big birthday party. And the next morning I woke up and I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? You know? And at the time it was just kind of, I wanted more. And I knew that there was more to life than this, but I just wasn't, I didn't know where to go, you know? I was tired of waking up hungover, you know, bunch of money gone, you know, um, and especially cleaning the house afterwards, a party, that was hard.
I bet. I bet. I mean, were you actually? Was it actually like the movies where you clean up, throw up?
No, no, no. We were way more responsible than that, but yeah, it was it was still rough,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
Um, and so I when I would go over to your house and you you used to be a DJ. I
Correct.
don't think you don't have your equipment anymore, or
No,
you don't
no.
have any of your equipment. What made you buy? Did you buy the DJ equipment just because you wanted to get to be able to party more, or what, did you buy the equipment for a different purpose and it just kind of sort of bled over to your party lifestyle?
Yeah, most definitely. Whenever the first DJ I did, it was actually for a guy I worked with. Uh, Me and my brother went. I had a couple of speakers that I had bought, so I forgot where. Uh, it was kind of like an highway, and we drove over there and we DJ'd, and I enjoyed it. My brother used to DJ back in the day, and I enjoyed it. So I was like, oh, I want to keep doing this. And that was while I was still living with my mom and dad. And then whenever I bought my house, I moved it over here, and we got to use it for parties. You know?
Yeah. And by the way, you didn't buy your house, you bought my house. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what you
yeah.
did.
Your
You
old
bought my
house.
house. Literally, he for those of you watching, he's literally living in the house I spent from when I was 5 years old to I was 12 years old. So I've spent
Yeah.
7 years living in that house. And that's the house he's living in right now. So it's the stories we could tell, the stories we could
Oh
tell.
man, that
So
scares me.
so so you were living this lifestyle. Who or what brought you into the church? Like I honestly, okay, when I saw you start going to church and everything like that, I've been wondering that who or what brought you to the church?
Well, your brother, uh, I, after that birthday party, I started kind of seeking, you know, and I remember your brother coming, your twin brother, coming to my house, and me and him were talking, and I told him that I shared with him about that, and it was at that moment, right in this room I'm in right now, that he prayed over me, and that was the start of turning my life around. You know, I began to truly seek what I was after. You know, um,
Yeah. So so basically that he prayed for you. And
correct.
so how did that lead you into the actual church building itself?
He kept inviting me. He didn't stop. He kept inviting me to church, and they had started going to Victory and Sulphur. Well, I finally ran out of excuses,
Dude, I
and
know you're not working right now. I work with you,
right,
so I know you're off. You have nothing going on. Come to
yeah,
church.
yeah. Uh, I finally ran out of excuses, and I went. Uh, and that's whenever I really began to start seeking God, and knowing. starting to know him, um, it wasn't. I began to learn what Matthew 5 was about on forgiving people and having people forgive me for stuff I did back in my old days.
That's hard.
Uh,
That's
yeah,
hard.
yeah,
That's hard. So we know you went to strip clubs. We know you drank.
right,
I know you never did drugs, which you're probably
correct.
is very. You never did drugs. You
Yeah,
always said that. That's one
yeah,
thing. You're like, I will never
correct,
touch that. Um,
correct,
and then the other thing that you did though was you used to curse a lot. I mean,
correct.
a lot. So so h- you went to the church and how did you actually like so you start going to church, you start to like you say, you start to seek God, you start to yearn for God a little bit more.
Mhm.
But what was that point that you would say, okay, God, Jesus, I'm surrendering it all. I found this relationship that I can't live without. Like what happened at that point?
Uh, so I had been going to Victory, um, and I remember at work, it was a guy, it was my parts manager, Troy. He's become one of my best friends now. I went to his office. I had went to Victory for about a year, and then I kind of stopped going. Um, and in that time, I went and started talking to Troy in his office. Well, he brought up that he was going to World Redemption Center in Moss Bluff, and they were starting what's called a small group. Well, he was like, "Hey, man, you need to come." And again, I had been out of Victory for probably a couple of months, and I was starting to go back to my old ways. And it was kind of like a light switch that turned right back on, like refocused myself. And I was like, okay, and God had to pull me there, but that's whenever I really learned, and the people around in my life group, to truly surrender to Him, you know, and seeing how they surrendered to Him. And I just learned that from them, you know, what true
Yeah.
surrender was.
Yeah. And so you just literally and you start then connect it to a life group. So
Correct.
did your manager go to Victory too?
No, my
Or
manager went to WRC,
okay.
World
Okay.
Redemption Center.
Okay.
Uh,
And that
and
that's where you are now, all right?
correct.
Okay, that's what that's
Yeah,
what I
I
thought. That's
actually started life groups that were based out of WRC before I started going to WRC.
If anyone ever wants to downplay how much connection you can get from a life
Man,
group it's don't downplay it. I mean,
right.
life's a change at a small
Yeah,
group or a life group setting, whatever you want to call it, just like they are in a church building. I mean,
yeah,
if anything, more so that because they learn more about you. Um,
right.
we've had that conversation before many a times where you've said it
Yeah.
to me. Your life group pastor knows more about you than your actual pastor does.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I've been
and
able to talk to my life group leader, Jeremy. I've been able to talk to him really more than my pastor. And he's helped me through some very big struggles
yeah,
and me and him are so close now, you know, that it's an unbreakable bond.
yeah. What
It's all God.
it's it.
Yeah.
Would you say that you left religion and found Christianity? Would you say that's a good statement, or would that be a false statement to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when I hear your story, that's what I think about. I think about you grew up in this religious structure, but
Correct.
you didn't know Jesus as your, a relationship with him. And then you
Right.
realized there's
It's
more to
more.
this.
Yeah. It's
There's
not just Sunday mornings.
Yeah, yeah. There's way more to this than just me going up on a Sunday morning and me doing mass.
Correct.
What would you say has changed the most in your life? Like that one or two things that you're like, I used to be this way or do this thing, and I don't, period, anymore.
Yeah. Sincerity. I'm more sincere to people. Um, just knowing that God is above everything, and all I am is just a disciple for Him. This is all about God. It's nothing about me. God changed me, and all of this is because of Him. Giving Him the praise. I come in second. He is first above everything. You know.
Yeah, yeah. First above everything, I like
Yeah.
that statement because I honestly tell people when I speak is there's an order in my household. It's Jesus and the Holy Spirit and God first,
Yeah.
then my wife, then my children.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my wife knows she's second in my life. Like
Yeah.
God's first and foremost in my life, and she's second. I love her with all with all the heart that God has given me. But at the
Yeah.
same time, that whole heart, this whole body, it belongs to God also.
Yep.
so
Yeah, I mean, and like the vacation times, I've taken vacation this year, and it's all been doing stuff for the church and for God. You know,
right, right.
last week I went to a Grow conference in Birmingham, Alabama, and it was just it was perfect. It was worshiping Him. And learning how to be a Christian in the church.
Right, right. And for those of you watching, um, Whiteberry lives, and I used to grow up in a small city called Westlake, Louisiana. And so well, I always tell people that where's Westlake? Well, when you're coming from Texas going into Louisiana, you're about to hit the I-10 bridge. Look to
Mm.
your left, and you'll see plants. They're like, yeah. Look in
Yeah.
between those plants. There's Westlake.
Yeah.
and so when you heard him say Iowa earlier, okay, it's literally spelled exactly like Iowa, but that's not how you say it. We always know the people who aren't from Louisiana when they say, "Oh, I'm going to Iowa."
Uh-huh.
You're going to Iowa. That's the state.
Oh
That's a
yeah.
pretty that's
That
a
just
pretty
sounds
far
weird.
drive. That's a pretty far drive. They're like, no, not
Yeah.
the city, Iowa in Louisiana. Oh, you're talking about Iowa. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
um,
That's a
so
long drive.
that's a pretty long drive from Louisiana to Iowa. It's a very long drive.
Yeah.
So how would you say now that you or your life has changed, you have this relationship with Christ, how do you keep it going on a consistent basis? Because it's got to be difficult. You're still working at the same job you were working at before you came to salvation. You're
Right.
still around nearly the same people that you were, probably not hanging out with nearly the same, but you're around some of
Right.
them that you were pre-salvation. So how do you keep your relationship with Christ solid amidst this whole world of that's wanting to bring you back to where you were?
Yeah. Uh, I mean, just like I said, all of my vacation times dealing with the church. You know, the accountability from the small groups. From my life group, they come and I get text messages all the time. We post in a text message group for, hey, I need prayer for this. Hey, are you sure you're doing that? Uh,
Yeah.
the the accountability from them is tremendous. At church, I got connected into the church. I'm actually now I'm the first impressions leader during first service. So you stay connected in the church, and you keep. One of the greatest quotes was, um, um, I lost it, but
Okay.
uh, show me your friends, I'll show you my future. You know,
Right, right. Yeah.
um, and yeah, I still have them same friends as before, but I've also gained some new friends. That they come second. You know,
Right.
in their life, they're second, and God is number one. And that's the people that I've surrounded myself with, and they push me, and I push them. To stay connected.
When you say you stay so your time shifted
Right.
from the time you spent with your old friends, so now you're like, these are my true friend, not true friends. Your old friends are your true friends, but like these
Yeah.
are the friends I want to hang out more with.
Yeah.
Um
Oh yeah.
and and it's all about connection. I
Correct.
mean, it's all about that connection. Hey, if you're speaking of connection, if you're liking the connection you're getting right here, hit that thumbs up from wherever it is you're watching from. That way we know you're loving the connection that you're getting with us. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. So it's all about connection points. And so many times we lose those connection points in our lives,
Yeah.
especially during 2020 last year when we had to
Oh
go nearly all digital for the church. That was hard for everyone,
yeah.
regardless of what you believed, regardless of how you believed it. That was difficult because we lost that connection
Yeah.
that brought us close together. Would you say that last year, would you say that uh, it was a more of a struggle, like that you had to truly intentionally be connected to your life group? Like, what would you say that's true?
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
So, I mean, see, the one thing that I do my best with, and you probably do this too, to keep everything alive, is I read my Bible on a daily basis. I have the U Version app. If you don't have the U Version app, get the U Version app.
Yeah.
In your app store, it's probably going to be called the Bible app. It's actually called U Version, but it's called the Bible app.
Yeah.
Um, so to wrap this up, what would you say to someone that maybe thinking they're alone in the same situation that you've been through? They don't they like, I don't want to do this Christian thing. I've seen it in my life. I don't want anything to do with it. What would you say to them?
Man, you got to find a church that you can call home. Uh, I remember the first time I Victory just wasn't my home. It was a fantastic church. I loved Victory over in Sulphur, but WRC, whenever I started going there, a few weeks in, I remember my pastor. He was walking around before church, and usually a pastor is preparing his message. Well, he walked up to me and he was like, "Hey man, I need to get you a shirt." And I was like, "Okay." And he went out of his way. He went found a shirt for me and came and gave it to me. And that's whenever I was like, "Okay, yes, this is my church." It was like I I found Jesus walking up to me, giving me that shirt. And that's whenever I really knew that, okay, this is the church for me. Um, so that's how you stay connected. Find a church that you can grow with, and that you don't feel you're being judged whenever you walk in there.
That's powerful right there. If you didn't get anything from this whole interview, that's it right there. Is
Yeah,
find a church that won't judge you, that you can connect with.
yeah,
I mean, you felt connected because of a pastor giving you a
yeah.
T-shirt.
And he my pastor laughs about it to this day. You know, uh, but that it's the little things, and that's why I see as first impressions leader that you have to do them little
So
things for
you
people.
keep saying first impressions. What is that? What does that mean? First impressions leader.
All
Give us a
right,
little synopsis of that.
all right. So over at WRC, we have our parking lot is kind of different, where the parking lot was used to be a little shopping center,
Okay.
and but it was a very small shopping center, so there's not a lot of parking. Well, we have a fireworks stand right across the street, and so we park over there. So we have a golf cart that brings people back and forth. That's part of first impressions. And then as a greeter and an usher, letting you in and out of the worship center, and just being that first person that people see.
Okay.
That's the first impression team from WRC. We want to be the first person you see that is super happy and is all about Jesus. We want you to see Jesus first.
Yeah. Yeah. So
You know,
you're over the people that are like, "Hi, nice to meet you," and then when
yeah,
the stranger's like, I don't know who you are, but nice to
yeah,
meet you."
yeah,
I can say that because I understand that experience. I have no idea who you are, but you look like you have
yeah.
a smile on your face.
Oh yeah,
Oh man. And and for you, that was kind of uncomfortable sometimes because I like I said, I've known you, man,
yeah.
it's we've known each other for years, and that's really not your personality. I mean,
No,
you are not the person to introduce yourself to people.
right, right. Um,
Uh,
yeah, but whenever I can get around that crowd, you know, uh, just high fiving at the door is tremendous, and that's what people love. Just high
mhm.
fiving, shaking hands, seeing a smiling face.
Right, right.
And that's what we strive for there.
And so, would you say so to the like you just said to the person that thinks that church is just church? Well, you might not be going to the right church.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
I will clarify something here. Don't just up and leave a church just because you're like, well, the one thing I can't don't like when people say I'm not getting fed anymore. Well, if
yeah,
your devotion life isn't right at home, then it's probably not the church's issue. Okay.
yeah,
So don't say you don't
yeah.
want to go to that church anymore just because you don't feel welcomed anymore. When
Right.
your personal devotion life at home is wrong. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you got to first look at yourself and ask God.
Right.
Can I do anything here first? You
Right,
know,
right,
um, and then it if you go through them steps and you still feel like okay, this just isn't home, then start looking for something that you can call home. You
right,
know,
right.
like I said, victory. I wasn't right in myself at the time. You know,
Mhm.
Victory is a great church. I just wasn't right in myself at the time, and that's why I didn't get connected.
And that happens. That
Yeah,
happens. I mean, not everyone's going to stay. It even if they are, if they're going to the church. And the best thing, like you keep repeating, is connection starts with you.
Yeah.
And it starts with you saying, I'm gonna do something. One of the pastor that I was under in Kentucky used to always say the what you get out of the church is what you put into the church.
Yeah.
If you're putting everything and all that you are in the church, you're gonna get all that you are out of the church. But if you're only coming on Sundays, you're not gonna be as connected as you need to be. And
Right.
that's basically what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
And that makes you a stronger Christian, and that made you where you're like, I know who Jesus is because of what other people are showing me.
Yeah.
And so you may be watching this video and think, I'm done with religion. I'm done with all this because they're just judging me and everything like that. Well, if you're going to a church that's just judging you and isn't empowering you, or a church is going to be convicting because the Bible is a convicting book. Okay.
Right.
You are a prime example of that. You used to curse, you used to drink, you used to do
Mhm.
all sorts of things. And but you went there and they loved on you and your life started to change. But at the
Yeah.
same time, you knew they weren't saying condemning you because of it. You just knew you're like, I'm doing the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be cursing anymore. I mean, I literally I shouldn't be cursing anymore. That would you say that a Christian should curse, or are you
No.
one that I believe a Christian shouldn't curse? I mean, that's just
No.
my opinion. um,
Yeah.
but
He
if
will
you're
definitely convict you on that.
he will. I
Yeah.
mean, and so if you think that you are at the borderline and you're watching this and you're like, I can relate to what Casey is saying, just remember that he found a church that loved on him.
Yeah.
And if we all sin and fall short of the glory of God, every single one of us. And if you're going to a church that's constantly just condemning you, then I mean, it may be time for you to find another church. But at the same time, if you're not, Whiteberry didn't, the church didn't change Whiteberry. Whiteberry changed himself.
Yeah.
Am I saying that correct? The
Yeah.
church didn't change you. You changed yourself.
Yeah.
You were the one that said, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
So if you're
Uh,
thinking you're going to go to a church and say, well, I'm going to stop doing all this, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Um, so, uh, Whiteberry, thanks for coming on with me. Is so we can continue this conversation a little bit after we're done with the recording.
All right.
But so thanks for coming on with me and today, and for giving us encouragement that
Yeah.
there's people out there who grew up in the church who may have left the church, but there's always a way to come back, and that
Yeah.
Jesus is still right there. He's still forgiving you, and that no matter how far you may have gone, you are not alone.
Right.
You are never alone.
Yeah.
So, guys, I'm going to leave it on that. It's remember, you are never alone.